Hello everyone, JB Thrills here back with another video, and today we're talking about Six Flags over Texas. By now you've probably seen all the news around from every single coaster enthusiast talking about Mr.Freeze Reverse Blast, and the saddening news behind it. But for those who hasn't, let me catch you up real quick. At a coaster event today, big news came out that Mr.Freeze Reverse Blast would be closing, and that the last chance to ride it will be Sunday, September 11th. This news came all of a sudden, and there's no prior signs of this big announcement. So truly, I'm confused. Is Mr.Freeze Reverse Blast really leaving over Texas? Or is it just a long refurbishment that will take another year, like when they repainted the attraction? In today's video, we'll be breaking down exactly that, and also predict what's next for the attraction if it really does leave the park. Also shout out to Minnesota Thrills for sending me the news right away. Before I get into the video though, I would like to say, if you like my content and videos, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and tap notification bells to know when new videos come out of my channel. I make all sorts of content that all relate to theme parks and thrill rides. But anything over Texas, this is the channel to be, as I cover all sorts of news for over Texas, as well as other theme parks. So if you're a thrill seeker, you should definitely consider sticking around. Anyways, let's get into today's video. So yeah, we just got hit with the bombshell of news today for over Texas. I mean, when do we not? At this point, it's been nothing but bad news for over Texas. Whether it's Aqua and Powerwave getting delayed to 2023, or the closure of Casa Magnetica until the end of the season, the new leadership under Salim Basoul has impacted over Texas in a very negative way. The loss of Ron McKenzie led the standards of over Texas to drop, and while they were on the rise of theming in 2021 and the actual care for the park, now we're struggling with park hours that constantly change, and now the closure of one of the highlighting attractions of over Texas. So why? Why is Mr.Freeze Reverse Blast closing? When they announced the closure, they gave no reason behind it, and honestly, there really isn't one. I say this because the ride is in perfect condition. Its manufacturer Premier still modifies the attraction in case anything goes wrong, and it's still in good shape, minus that fire from last year. So truly, its lifespan is still going. And I think I know why the reason it's closing. First off, it has to do with the Texas power grid. Recently, Mr. Freeze has to close early because of the power issues for Texas. And with Mr. Freeze taking a lot of power, it's understandable why. But it doesn't mean it has to be destroyed. Another prime reason for this could also be Salim Basoul again. His miscare of Six Flags has caused their stocks to drop, so budgeting is tough these days. And I guess they think by destroying Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast, they're gonna save money, which again will backfire, and we're about to lose a legend of a coaster in the case that that happens. Though, I'm gonna remain positive, and still hope that Mr. Freeze gets to live another day. And just as much chance that we have of destroying the attraction, we also have an equal chance of the ride living under a rebrand. Yes, a rebrand. In the announcement, they said the last chance to ride Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast was September 11th. And again, they didn't give a reason why. Now why is that? Why are they keeping so secret about why the coaster is leaving? And then it hit me, what if it was a surprise? Why don't we flash back to a little bit earlier this year when a very similar situation took place with Montezumas Revenge at Knott's Berry Farm. The coaster was announced to close all of a sudden, and once again they said last chance to ride Montezumas Revenge would be February 7 this year, and everyone freaked out just like in this situation. Montezuma is an icon for Knott's Berry Farm, similar to Mr. Freeze in over Texas, and for it to leave would be the most heartbreaking thing ever. But then shortly after, they finally revealed a little bit of why, that they were going to refurbish Montezuma. And finally, last week, we got the full confirmation of Montezuma getting re-themed and rebranded, with new trains and a new experience, which overall is amazing. And knowing the pattern of Six Flags over Texas, they do copy what Knott's Berry Farm does. They brought back a past attraction similar to Knott's Berry Farm when they brought back Knott's Berry Tales with the new Pod Spelunker Cave. And I just know that Six Flags has seen what they did with Montezuma's Revenge, and probably think it's a good idea to do it to Mr. Freeze, even though technically this refurbishment already happened with the repaint. But again, looking back at the announcement, it said last chance to ride Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast. And when they said it to Montezuma's, it was the last time to ride Montezuma's Revenge. And now you'll be riding the new Montezuma, the Forbidden Fortress. So the similarities are adding up. So to me, it seems like Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast will be no more. But the ride can be refurbished, rethemed, and made into something new. So I think similar to Montezumas Revenge, the ride will close down for a bit, and maybe we get new trains, the queue of the attraction gets more themed, and of course a new name. Like it being renamed to Mr. Freeze the Chiller, which is a nice throwback to original Batman and Robin the Chiller attraction, and honestly sounds way cooler than Reverse Blast. And speaking of Reverse Blast, this could also mean that the coaster gets flipped, and now we have a forward launch, similar to what they've done with Superman at Magic Mountain. And for those who don't know Six Flags history, Mr. Freeze, believe it or not, used to go forward, up until 2011. And after that, in 2012, the ride closed down for a refurbishment to be renamed into Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast and go backwards. So again, it's not the first time this happened to Mr. Freeze, and it's why I remain hopeful that Mr. Freeze stays. And if you think about it, destroying Mr. Freeze would possibly be the worst decision ever, as this coaster is the highlighting attraction for Over Texas. When you see Over Texas commercials, you see Mr. Freeze. So the only exception for removing it is if they replaced it with a giant coaster that's worthy of replacing Mr. Freeze. Which is probably not going to happen considering we just got a new dive coaster in stocks. And if Mr. Freeze gets this refurbishment, I also hope they get new trains, similar to Montezumas Revenge, because those new trains also come from Premier, who are the ones that manufacture Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast. So by giving those amazing looking trains, minus the comfort collars, it'll make the refurbishment worth it. Now do I think it's bad timing? Yes, considering Mr. Freeze already closed down to get repainted. But is it a good investment? Yes. Considering Aquaman Powerwave got delayed again, better to have this Mr. Freeze refurbishment. Even though I desperately wanted the Batman the Ride refurbishment first, because they have so much potential to tie in that attraction with the movie. And honestly, Batman needs a refurbishment more. So, before we get out our pitchforks and start to ride at Six Flags for removing this legendary coaster, let's wait for further announcement. Let's get on the final rides on Mr. Freeze and see if the ride really does get destroyed. And if it does, then you have the right to get mad. Of course, keep it to a minimum, and don't get mad at the employees of the park because it's not their fault. But yes, you can get mad over the internet and make Six Flags know that they made the worst decision ever. Still make it friendly though, because hate messages and death threats aren't going to solve anything. But in result, we still have no word on what's going to happen with Mr. Freeze, and my only suggestion is just to ride as much as you can before it's gone. You never know if it's going to be permanently gone or closed for a while. Either way, the same Mr. Freeze you know now will never be the same again. So it's time to take advantage of the time that you have left with it. And if it does get removed, then I'm done with Six Flags. Alright, I'm not done with Six Flags because Over Texas is the closest theme park near me, but you're gonna see a lot less Six Flags content because I've had so much patience with Six Flags, and it's just very disappointing to see these things happen. I will continue to make theory videos and suggestions about how Over Texas can be better, but at this point, parks like Knott's Berry Farm and SeaWorld San Antonio are doing way better, so Six Flags better get it together. But again, I will always remain positive for Six Flags and do what I can to make the park still look cool by giving any tips I can for anyone visiting the parks and giving ideas. So hopefully Mr. Freeze stays. Anyways, what do you think? Is Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast going to be on the chopping block, or is it a Montezuma's Revenge type upgrade? Comment down below. Anyways, thank you for watching. This is JB Thrills signing out.